we're gonna be performing a press. So first of all, let me introduce my teammate. This is Emily Gainley, and she's gonna help us today to perform improvement. Okay, so today we're gonna go through, first of all, we're gonna assess her mobility, on her shoulder mobility. Then we're gonna perform some warm-up exercises that are gonna warm and activate her muscles, and also it's gonna work improve in some of her mobilization if we have any limitations. Mobilization exercises should be performed every time you do this type of lifts, just because mobilization is not something that you can improve in a matter of a day or two or even a week. It takes a while to actually see some improvements. So we're gonna go through some of the exercises, and then we're gonna go into the proper setup and execution for the press. It's really important to know that this exercise is, if not the best, one of the best exercises for upper body strength. Even though the prime movers are just two muscles, it really does work like most of the muscles of your upper back and upper body. So this is definitely a muscle lift that you want to incorporate into your routine. It's very complex, and a lot of people perform it incorrectly just because they don't have the proper technique or strength to do it the correct way. Also, mobility limits this movement a lot. So even if the strength is there and the theory is there, sometimes mobility can limit how good your overhead press is, how the bar path goes. All that stuff can be limited by some lack of mobilization on your scapula and your shoulder joint. So hopefully through time, if you incorporate those exercises that I'm about to teach you, you'll be able to get a good mobilization so you can perform the lift correctly, and hopefully start lifting more and more weight throughout time. So let's just start with some of the assessments, and then with some of the exercises. You ready, Em?
Yep.
Okay, our first exercise for shoulder and scapular mobilization, as well as warming up, is wall slides. So Em is gonna stand facing the wall. She's gonna stand 6-8 feet apart from the wall. Yep. She is gonna have a neutral position on her back, so she's gonna brace her core and engage that core, so we can eliminate any curves that are on the lower back. So she's gonna brace, engage your core, so you keep a flat back. Okay, and now she's gonna put her forearms against the wall, and she's gonna push. As she pushes against the wall, she's gonna bring her arms up as she tries to keep a neutral position. So just keep push, up. Notice that even though she's going up, her position, it's still her back is still remaining flat and neutral. That's what we want. The moment that we disengage and start curving her back, that just doesn't count. The exercise just tells us that our mobility is limited at that point. So she goes as far back as she can, up, and just go up again, straight. She could shrug her shoulders a little bit if that gives her a little bit more of a bridge, but the structure here should always stay flat, just like that. I'm gonna go down. Yep, she could do 2 sets of 10 for this, and she could vary this, do some changes to kind of engage more the scapula. She will, instead of going straight up, she's gonna do a Y up. So just go up as you're doing a Y. So like this, you go like that. Trying to. There you go. Same thing. We're trying to keep a flat back. Okay, so go up. Try to reach here. Oh, we can tell my mobility is not the best. There you go. And we go down. Same thing, we can do 2 sets of 10 for this, and we will be good. Thank you. Now we're gonna move to some external and internal movements. First, we can assess how M's internal and external rotation is. I'm just gonna ask her to keep your hair here and just go back, just move your back. So, yeah, that's not bad. Now go down, all the way down, 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 as far down as you can. So it's not bad, but there could be some improvement. Like it's very limited. So we know that her internal rotation is not great, and if you want to go up external, all the way back, that's good. It's pretty good. It's better than the internal. So thank you. So we are gonna work in some exercises that are gonna kind of like stretch those internal and external rotators, and some exercises that are gonna improve that mobility. So over time, she'll be able to reach like lower and higher. External and internal rotation are key aspects for the press, because when we're in this position, like right above our head, pretty much we're fighting, like we need to stabilize the bar, right? So we're fighting any forward movement or some backward movement. So the muscles and like that do that are the internal and external internal and external rotators. So this is why it's really important to always have some dynamic stabilization exercises that work on strengthening those internal and internal rotation muscles. So the first one, I'm gonna ask M to grab the band. Yep, we're gonna work on fighting strengthening that external rotation. So she's gonna go up, yep, and then she's just gonna pull back as if she was trying to externally rotate. There you go, and then you just release. And try to keep, like, the idea is not to move your arm that much. You don't want to have like a straight 90 degree. We don't want that, maybe in a 30 right there, but just keep it straight. What you're moving is just this part, your forearm. So go back. You go, and then release. Go back and release. Even though the movement is like barely noticeable, she's working hard and she's actually fighting that kind of like strengthening and fighting that rotation. So that's a good movement to work on the external rotators. Now to kind of like do an exercise that applies more to the specific movement that we will be doing while working on those internal and external stabilizers, we're gonna do the following exercise. I'm gonna ask you to just step here. Yep, grab the band on your hand, and first we're gonna focus on doing some internal rotation. We're gonna fight the internal rotation, so the band is gonna be in your palm. Yep, and just with one hand, I want you to just, while keeping that position, you're gonna go right up over your head, like if you were performing an overhead press just with one hand. So just keep it, open it up. So we want to have this position, like as if you had the bar and you were ready to go, and then you're gonna push up right overhead. There you go. Right now, the band is kind of like pushing her to go back, forcing kind of like that external rotation that we want. So right now she's like pushing and fighting that by internally rotating. So that's why this is such a powerful movement, because she's working on that internal rotation while her external rotators are being stretched a little bit. So just go again. There you go. Okay, she can do 2 sets of 10 or maybe 2 sets of 5 on each arm, and she should be good. Then now that we have that, we're gonna change position, so just face that way. And now we are gonna focus on external rotation type of movement. So previously we had here the band and it was pushing us externally. So now we're gonna have it on this hand, it's gonna push us internally. So the band should be behind her hand. So she should not be grabbing it like that, the band should be like there. There you go, you're gonna use your thumb, just put it there. Okay, so just engage, there you go. Now the band is pulling her hand internally, so she needs to fight that by externally rotating her arm. And now she's gonna do the same thing, just overhead press. Try to engage it, keep that position, there you go. Push. Push. There you go. And that's the second way of like getting some mobilization and warm up for your external and internal rotators, as well as your scapula and shoulder joints. So now that we are done with our assessment and mobility exercises, you can turn that. We can just go ahead and jump into the proper setup and execution for the press. Okay, for the setup, she's gonna walk into the bar. Okay, walk into the bar. And the first thing is that we want our hands to be like right outside of our shoulders. So if you wanna just where you think the right grip would be. Once where you set up where you think the right grip would be, we can just walk into it and adjust depending on some stuff. Some of the things that we need to adjust to are, first of all, we need to make sure that there's a straight line right here. So between wrist and elbow, it should be like a straight line. So right now, straight line, there you go. That's good. Like hands are right out, like outside the shoulders. All this is not like an absolute rule because it really does depend on your body. Some people have longer forearms than some other people, so it kind of just depends on how your body is, your physiology, so anatomy, sorry. That now we want to think about having our forearms a little bit slide forward, because that is going to allow us to do the push up right straight up and not forward. If our elbows are tucked back, our body's just going to do that push forward, and we don't want that. We want to have our forearms slightly like in front of the bar, so that can allow us to do that push right up. So right now it looks good. Another mistake is that a lot of people tend to kind of like let their wrists like just go back, and they start pretty much holding the weight on their wrists instead of their shoulders. So if you can show us how that would look like, just like that. We don't want that, because all the weight is going to be in the shoulders, and we're disengaging our arms. We want to turn back them and engage. There you go. The bar also a lot of people let it rest on their collarbones, but it necessarily doesn't have to. So if you wanna just like unrack it just to see how it look like. Yep. Okay. So see, we hear that there's a little bit flat, so just turn it back. Okay. Think about pushing your forearms forward, down, a little bit forward. There you go. That's the position we want. So now you can rack it back. Okay, now we're gonna think about your hips and your glutes. If we want to move the bar in a straight path, eventually if we moved it straight, it would hit our chin and our face, right? So since we want the bar to go straight up, we have to move our body around the bar, not the bar around our body. So how we're gonna achieve that is by engaging our glutes and our hips. So when we're in this position, right before we do the push, we want to think about squeezing our glutes and like sinking our hips forward, so our head can kind of like get out of the way from the bar. So once we squeeze and sink our hips forward, we're gonna push, and when we're doing this push, we want to think about putting our head through the imaginary window that is formed between our arms. So we're here and we're gonna push. We want to really push overhead, not just forward and finish it here, like pushing far forward and pushing our head through the window, and we stand tall. And then we go down. When we go down, we want to think about pushing our forearms in front of the bar, not a lot, but just a little bit in front, because that's gonna allow us to not bring the bar here and then having to readjust again when you're gonna do the second rep, but it's gonna set us up in the right position to just go ahead and perform the second rep in a correct position. So I'm gonna ask Em to just try to think about this, and I'm gonna cue her as she does it. This is a really complex movement, and like I said, a lot of times it's limited by shoulder mobility. So you can have the strength, but if you're not
your joints are not fully capable of like going into this position, it's gonna be hard to like maintain correct form. So even if M knows the theory behind it, sometimes she just cannot do it correctly because there's some limitations on her joints. And that's why we wanna work on those exercises that I just explained you. We wanna work on them for every single workout that we have. For every lift that we do this, we try to incorporate those exercises beforehand, because that's gonna help us with the correct form, and eventually with the correct form we're gonna be able to put more and more and more weight. So I'm gonna let you go for it.
Am I marking?
Yep. It's just racket, step back, back, full. Keep your arms forward. Okay. Squeeze glutes, hips forward, and push. Okay. Squeeze, hips, push. Okay. One last time. Squeeze, forward, push. Okay. You can rack it. So it was overall an okay lift, but we can see that her bar path, maybe it's not that clear from there, but like you can still see from the side and from where I was that she's still driving a little bit forward, so it's going like a little bit around it. And that honestly is just like I said, because of the complex movement, so we need to just work more in some mobilization exercises, because as we saw, she doesn't have great mobility, which is not a bad thing, but we need to improve it if we want to like improve the quality of the lift. So with some work on those exercises and a good warm-up, eventually M is going to be able to engage her hips and glutes, and she's going to be able to fully keep a straight bar path. So overall it was good, but we definitely can work on some mobility on your arms.